I'm bored. Stuck here in heaven, nothing to do. Been creating humans this morning. Working on men. Was doing ladies yesterday, but I'll be working on men today, just bashing them out. And I got a bit worried because, buggered up a little bit on some of the men. I'm thinking Hitler, Stalin. Weren't my best, really. Weren't my best, so don't put me off doing it, really. Creating men, using my godlike omnipotent powers. But it can be boring when you're omnipotent, because it's like you get used to absolutely everything. It's a bit boring being God. So I don't know what to do myself, really. 1952. Oh, come on. You can't sit here moping. You got half the human beings down on earth moping. You got to set an example for them when you're God. You have to set an example for the humans. So, I need to lift my spirits a little bit. How about, I always feel that, when you're a bit down, even if you're God, it's because you've lost your get up and go, haven't you? So I thought, well, what I'm going to do to try and, lift me up, I thought this would be a good thing to do today, is why don't I try and create the greatest man ever? I'm saying incredibly handsome, incredibly talented, a brilliant singer, a musician. We'll give him success and fame. We'll give him absolutely everything. Huge private parts. We'll give him the whole lot, everything we're going to give this bloke. Great big hairy chest, everything. Incredible hair, like hair like no one else has had. And we'll drop him onto the earth. We'll give him absolutely everything, success and fame, right? But he will never get taken seriously. That sounds like a godlike thing to do. I'm sure there's a moral there somewhere, but we'll let the humans sort that one out. Now let's get straight on to it then. Right, the greatest man that's ever lived, 1952. Let's go. Say it again, God. Say it again. Go on. 1952. Let's go. Right, here we go. Use your godlike powers, your omnipotent creative juices to summon up from the heavenly realms of perfection, the most perfect man that has ever been created. Behold. And what shall we call this man that you see before you? We will call him Gino. Vannelli. Look at him. Have you ever seen anything like that? Come on, really? Why is this guy not a superstar? He's got everything. Incredible voice, handsome, beautiful body. I just love the bloke, I mean, I'm a heterosexual man, and just looking at him, I'm getting aroused now, even now. What does he look now? He's 75 years old, 75 years old, Gino is. What's he look like now at 75? I mean, look at him. Who is this man? It's like the Noel Edmonds of popular music here, really. That's what we've got here. Same level as Noel. If you are not British, you might not know who Noel is, but Noel also is in his late 70s. He was a TV presenter, and he looks like this now. These are proper men. Proper men are not valued, are they? And that's a problem. God could spend all his skills creating proper men, but proper men will always be diminished in a world where the slightly less proper men The soft-handed, soft-shouldered liberal types that control the music press will never champion something like this fellow here. No, Nick Cave, they think's good. You know, someone who can't sing, that sings a load of warbly songs about nothing, but stands there looking cool. But looking cool like anybody can be cool. You know, these are people who think that they could be James Dean by buying a few Patti Smith albums or listening to the Velvet Underground. It's those types. And they can't take the reality of a proper man. Right? Here I am about to do a video on Gino Vannelli. Now, do you know why I haven't done it before, people? There's a number of reasons why I haven't done this one before. Right? I don't know where to start. This huge career, all these incredible albums. So I thought I need to boil it down. This needs to be an introduction to Gino Vannelli for people who go, who's Gino Vannelli? You know, Andy say this is the greatest man in human history, and yet I've never heard of them. You know, who is this Gino Vannelli? Well, you're going to find out. And the other thing that worried me was, although I have a small contingent of ladies watching this channel, I didn't want to lose them by just getting them too excited by having a whole video on Gino. He's been mentioned a couple of times on the channel, it has to be said. And outside the building, there's an emergency Gino Vannelli emergency cupboard that we have. It's out there for the public. If you're walking past it saying you slipped over or broke your hip or had a heart attack or just a panic attack or just became overwhelmed with the pointlessness of life, you just open up the case, and in there you will find, you know, a Gino Vannelli album. Just clutch it to your breast and you will find you will be replenished of energy, a little bit like in Fortnite when you find those energy things, you know, those canisters of energy. You don't have those in real life. Well, you do. They're called Gino Vannelli albums. Right, so this is going to be comic and yet informative at the same time. And I tell you, it's going to take the mickey out of something, but it won't be Gino Vannelli. I ain't taking the mickey out of this man. I tell you that now. Shall we just crack on? So, who the hell's Gino Vannelli? Well, he was born in 1952. He was born in Canada, but he's of Italian origin. I mean, it's bloody obvious that is, isn't it? I didn't need to say that. Look at him. There's never been someone so Italian. Gino, that's an Italian name, is it? Vannelli. Vannelli. That's an Italian name. Gino Vannelli. It rolls off the tongue, like many ladies have. So with Gino, I say this about his prowess in the bedroom, but actually, and this is where the ladies are going to go, oh, Gino was married to the same lady for 50 years. For 50 years, and then she became ill, terminally ill, and when he was terminally ill, he stopped doing his music, built his studio right next to her so he could tend to her every single day for 5 years straight. Because as I said, Gino is the greatest man. I'm not taking the mickey out of him. This is a reasonable, handsome, this is the best bloke going. Every man should be looking up to this bloke and saying, that's what I want to be. And every lady should be saying, these are the men we should be cherishing and championing. So there's this Italian origins Canadian with his brother Joe. And Joe's incredibly talented. These are incredibly talented musically. Gino is an incredible singer. I'm not joking, he's an incredible singer. Huge range, power, soulful, a brilliant songwriter. Joe Vannelli is a brilliant keyboardist. And they have an idea, and this idea is interesting. It's popular music, it's pop music. They're going to write songs, but they are not going to sacrifice their musical vision for pop songs. These will be pop songs, but they will be the sort of pop songs that God would listen to. You know, if God was bored one day and he thought, oh, I'm bored, I'll put some pop music on. I don't want to listen to, God's music. You know, only God can listen to God's music. If a human being was to listen to it, they would be instantly obliterated by the beauty of it. But if he just wants some light listening, he would put on Gino Vannelli, which is, I believe, why he created him as he did in 1952. But he knew he would be sending into the music world the most talented man that's ever lived, but won't be accepted. And in that way, he's almost like the rock and roll Christ. Have I given him a big enough, is this big enough to, am I giving Gino I'm going a bit too far, really. So, in 1972, Gino and his brother decide to travel down to Los Angeles and the United States of America and get a deal, which they get. And they record an album where they play all the instruments between them, called Crazy Life. Now, you won't believe this, but originally Gino was not an incredible, handsome singer, an incredible songwriter. He was a drummer. And so I would hate to see him play the drums. I'm sure I would be greatly intimidated to see Gino play the drums. It's something I don't want to, because I'd have to question my whole existence if he was better than me. And he would undoubtedly be better than me. But Crazy Life, believe it or not, was not a big success. So the Vannelli brothers returned to Canada, Ontario or whatever. I'm just making names up. They returned to Canada and they think, what do we need? We need a band. And they put a band together. Oh my God, did they put a band together? They returned back to the United States with a new set of songs and they record their second album, which is called Powerful People. I believe that album comes out in around about 1974, and they follow that up with Storm and Sunup in 1975. In 1976, we get Gist of Gemini. In 1977, we get The Pauper and the Prince. And then in 1978, you get his incredibly blockbuster, million-selling, stadium-filling album, Brother to Brother. And on this video, I am going to be looking at those first 5 albums. Some of them in depth, some of them not so much in depth. But that will give you an idea of the emergence of Gino, and it will take you up to him becoming, in 1978, a huge selling pop artist. But to call him a pop artist doesn't give justice to what him and his brother had planned, as a creative vision. And I find it very compelling and unique. And I think Gino Vannelli is unlike any other artist on the planet. And I'm going to try and do some justice on this video. Now, as I said, what Gino isn't is the sort of music that the metropolitan liberal elite would like, without a doubt. And so he has been cursed, I think, by not getting the sort of high critical praise in the sort of postmodern cultural climate that he came in, because sell a ton of records and make incredible music. But for someone like me, who loves music, I love rich harmonies, funky rhythms, I love complexity. I like the idea of sort of almost like progressive expansion of the music, going back past the song form, the use of synthesizers in novel and interesting ways. They bring all this to Gino's incredible songs. And it's the same thing with his lyrics. His lyrics can be very fun, but they can also be very, very deep. Now, if you start with the second album, Powerful People, and I just want to let you know that you can actually get the second and the third album, Storm at Sunup, on this little collection here. And it was me grabbing this collection that inspired me to do this, because I think this is a great place to start for Gino, right? Now, most people are going to start in the multi-million seller, which is this one, Brother to Brother, right? But I don't think you get the full picture. And the people who watch this channel, the ones who like jazz rock fusion and the ones who like prog, and even more, the ones who really like jazz rock fusion and prog, Gino Vannelli is an essential listen. And although this album contains probably the greatest jazz rock progressive pop crossover tune in history, Beating Asia by Steely Dan, by a long amount of beating, and I will get onto that shortly, or longly, depending on how this video goes. You don't still get the full picture with this. Let's start with Powerful People. It comes out in 1974. Luckily for Gino, it opens up with an incredible slice of early 70s disco. This is 1974, but you got Gino, the big hair, the handsome face, the hairy chest, and there he is coming out with a disco, hit.
gotta move. No, you gotta move.
Called People Gotta Move. Great tune. This is ahead of its time if you think about it. Okay? It's ahead of its time. Gino is very, very funky. And this album, the band he's got, which I will have to look up on the credits because it's not that good. Joe Vannelli, his brother, on electric piano and synthesizer. This is the first album where Joe's using the synthesizer. The orchestration on the debut album, Crazy Life, is not like this. These albums from now on are very interesting if you're into multi-layered keyboards. When I go through the lineup on this, Joe Vannelli electric piano synthesizer, Richard Baker also on organ, bass and synth, Graham Lear on drums, John J. Medall on percussion, Tony Galea on congos and bongos, and the great legendary Lanny Hall on backing vocals. You can hear there's no bass player there. The bass is supplied by what it looks like Richard Baker on what they've called organ bass, although I think there's some synth bass on here. Anyone who's aware of the George Duke albums at that time, you know that George was also, providing synth bass. So the music sounds on this album very much like that, but with Gino's incredible vocal. Now let's stop to look at Gino's vocal. This guy can sing. It's sheer power, right? He can go from the lowest note to the highest note in an instant. And all those notes are absolutely pure and beautiful. The melodies that they write are very, very complex, even when they're at their most pop-like, right? This is pop music, but incredibly sophisticated music. And Gino is able to negotiate himself with the ear of a musician through some incredibly different vocal lines. When it comes to male singers, this guy is in the top 5 as far as I'm concerned. Now you might go and search out my top 5 greatest vocalists and Gino won't be in. You know why? Because Gino always gets forgotten. He's also an incredible songwriter as well. This album, Powerful People, they're great pop songs. All the songs are relatively, shortish. There's a lot of arrangement. And I have to say that the inclusion of the drummer Graham Lear on this, who sticks around for the next 4 albums, to be replaced by Mark Craney on Brother to Brother, because he got the gig in Santana. It's some of the greatest drumming ever recorded in the 1970s. Graham Lear is incredible on here. I will talk about him a bit later on. The drum sound is wonderful. It's that very tight 70s funk sound, harmony vocals. This is just a beautiful album, right? It gives you an idea of the sort of song side, brilliantly done. The funky song, soulful side. There's a lot of ballads on here. Often with the Gino Vannelli album, I'm never keen on ballads, but you give them a listen and get involved and you realise there's a lot more going on than you thought. This is a great album, but what it hasn't got is the wild jazz fusion, prog, psychedelic insanity that then crops up on the next album, Storm at Sunup. Storm at Sunup, I think, is his greatest album. Greater even than Brother to Brother. It's my favourite album by Gino. The lineup on here, again, is Joe Vannelli, electric and acoustic piano and synthesizer. Richard Baker, again, on organ, synth, bass and synth. Graham Lear on drums. John J. Medall on percussion. And that is the same as the first album, but then we get Sergio Pastore on congas and talking drum. We get Jerome Richards on tenor and soprano sax. And it's some burning soprano sax on here. Don Bailey on harmonica. The great Jay Graydon on electric guitar, and Ross Vannelli and Sally Stevens on backing vocals. Ross Vannelli, of course, being another brother. Now, where do we go with this album? There's a lot to talk about here, right? It opens up with Storm at Sunup, which is almost orchestral in its opening. Beautiful vocals, muted chords, and then suddenly the band kicks in and it's full on progressive rock. Great big sort of majestic fanfare like crashes, right? It's full on prog. It doesn't seem to be following any normal structure whatsoever. And then suddenly this jazz swing kicks in. It goes all sort of jazz psychedelic, and we have this incredible saxophone solo. We are hit with sort of soulful pop music. We're then hit with prog, and then we're hit with jazz, incredible jazz fusion, fiery jazz fusion. Right, this tune runs through. It keeps changing and shifting, and it eventually drops into the ballad but very funky Love Me Now. That's followed up with one of the funkiest tunes ever written. And this is called Mama Coco, right? Now, Mama Coco is bizarre. The chorus is sung by some sort of group vocal, and it goes like this, Mama Coco. So you get this funk groove, and he's singing his song about Mama Coco. Mama Coco. Mama Coco. Don't want to sing too much of it because I get a copyright strike. So you just can't remember it, can you? So anyway, this is really bizarre. I put the album on this morning. I've always loved this tune. It's one of my favourite tunes. It's so strange. It's almost like Frank Zappa-ish in that vocal. And I don't know what it's about. Now, this is really interesting because I think this is a problem Gino has. Is sometimes his lyrics can be really deep, right? But they don't follow that sort of idea of sort of political correctness, should we say? You know, they tell stories. Now, you might ask yourself, what does Mama Coco, what story does that tell us, Mama Coco? Well, I will do a lyrical analysis for you once I find the actual lyrics in here, which I can't find. It's got to be here somewhere. Where is it? Got it. Now, Mama Coco, I've listened to this for quite a long time. I've known this song for quite a while. I've always thought Mama Coco is probably just some sort of phonetic sounding thing that they like. Mama Coco, they liked it. It can't possibly be, describing the Vannelli brothers' mother, can it? Can't be. Nah, it's not their real mother. Well, maybe they're talking about a mother as in a lady that they quite like. But why would she call Mama Coco? I didn't want to really deal with the reason why she might be called Mama Coco by Gino. But this morning I thought, I don't know what the hell's this about. So I'm going to analyse the lyrics and you could decide to yourself what you think. Mama Coco, hey, you're looking heavy. Mama Coco, ho, you're looking good. Mama Coco, yes, I've been getting hungry. Maybe she's heavy because she's returned from the shops. She's got some Kit Kats, maybe, some Pringles, I don't know, some sort of sustenance that, Gino is looking forward to. Maybe it is his mom. Maybe she has bought some cocoa. Maybe she's going to put the Vannelli brothers into bed, make them a nice drink of cocoa, give them a Kit Kat, read them a story, and maybe that's why, they're saying, Mommy, we're hungry, so that's your natural thought, isn't it, with that? So, Mama Coco, feed me woman food. I don't have fancy shacks or multicoloured Cadillacs. Well, they're on to their third album. You would have thought they'd be able to afford at least a fancy shack and a multicoloured Cadillac. But, why a multicoloured Cadillac? But I have 3 months of loneliness. Gino's telling the truth here. He's been lonely for 3 months. Poor old Gino has. So, Mama, have a drink, relax. Mama, so glad to have you here. So she's not only going to supply Gino with his sustenance needs, she's also going to supply his loneliness needs, That's all the needs, really, isn't it? And then he goes, I love you, Mama Coco. Mama Coco, such anticipation. Mama Coco, Mam, you're blowing my mind. I don't want to read the next lyric out. I don't think I should. I don't think I'm even allowed to read this next bit out in the modern world, Gino. Is this why Gino is not a household name? Is this what it is? What was that? What? You want to hear it? Well, I warn you, don't have a go at me. Don't shoot the messenger, will you? You want to hear the lyric? All right, then hang on, sit down, I'll do it again. Let's back up and get the whole verse for you. I love you, Mama Coco. Mama Coco, such anticipation. Mama Coco, Mam, you're blowing my mind. Mama Coco, I'm just a male Caucasian. Mama Coco, I'm virgin to your kind. What kind is this that he's virgin to? This song is an ode to a white man wanting to get sexual congress with somebody of a different creed. This is the subject matter of this tune. Now, don't get paranoid. I ain't a horny little mongoloid. Now, I mean, some of you are laughing at this point, and some of you are horrified, aren't you? You know, that's the lyric here. What went wrong, Gino? I've given you this sort of video here. This video is unlike any video I've ever made, really. It started off with a bit of, theatre, me pretending to be God. I'm creating the greatest man, and there he is. He looks like Adonis, doesn't he? Sent down to earth to do good. Right? He's been married to the same lady for 50 years. He's an honourable man. He's a decent man. He's a brilliant musician. Blah, blah, blah. And then he coming out with a lyric like this. Maybe he didn't write this one. Who wrote this? Who wrote all these tunes? I know it's him. There's no excuse for this. Gino, there's no excuse. All I want to have is a little bit of love and joy. Mama, so glad to have you here. I love you, Mama Coco. Mama Coco, so glad to have you here. I love you, Mama Coco. Right, so that's what that one's about. Now, this is followed up by a beautiful tune called Father and Son. And this is so emotional to me. Once in a life there comes a man like you, and you bear a son so much like yourself, and it's hard to believe that he's a grown man, but Pop, I understand. I mean, maybe he's singing about their combined love of people of a different race. Once every night I thank my lucky stars, you've given me some guiding light, but there comes a time when a father and son can no longer be as one. It's true, you have to grow up, fly the nest, don't you? It took me so long to recover from the pain of having denied the love I once relied upon. It takes more than time to discover that for both the young and old, the truth is sometimes cold, but right. This is my life, and I've got to hold my own, even if it means hurting us both, and the wrongs become right when we stop and wonder, how? Look at us, we're better friends now. I find Gino's lyrics very honest, right? Maybe a little bit too honest. We then get to Where Am I Going? Keep on Walking. This now goes into like a mini progressive rock epic. And in the middle of this comes an absolutely burning guitar solo from Jay Graydon. Now, everyone's going to go on about Jay Graydon playing guitar with old Steely Dan, isn't he? And they get all the guitarists in, 80 guitarists comes in, everyone's trying to do the guitar solo, none of them can pull it off. And then Jay Graydon pulls the guitar solo off for the perfectionist Steely Dan. Well, that just niggles me. For me, Gino Vannelli, this guy is my Steely Dan. This is pop music, vocal music, but highly sophisticated. But the difference is, I always feel that this is like being let off the loose. It gets into gear 3, gear 4, gear 5. It gets into the top gears over and over again, right? So I get this. Go and check out these albums. These two albums between them really set the dial of what Gino Vannelli's about. Now, the next one we're going to look at is this incredible album, Gino Vannelli, right? And it's called A Gist of Gemini. There he is. Looks like he's in sort of some space. He's just simply looking down his piano. That's all he's doing. You can see his handsome face and his incredible hair, which they have backlit. You know, Gino is probably the platonic reason why you backlight hair, really. There he is on the back with his brother. His brother's got an incredible 70s moustache. Not like mine, some grey, you know, flecks of random hair just sat on the top of my lip, you know, holding on for dear life. No, this moustache is thick and heavy and everything you'd expect from a 70s moustache. The lineup is John J. Mandel on timpani and percussion, Graham Lear on drums, Richard Baker on organ and synthesizer, and Dido on congas, guica and timbales. And on this album, you get that awful cut-out heads there. Looks like London Bridge, doesn't it, in the medieval times, where you would walk along and see all the beheaded villains with their heads stuck on various spikes. Not good. This one hasn't got so much inside. I was just going to see if we could do some lyric analysis. Now, what's this album like? This is a special album. Gist of Gemini is something else. It really is. It starts up. Let's try and get a reasonable track list. Love of My Life, Ugly Man, A New Fix for 76, Omens of Love. They're all great. Very much like the first album. Gino's giving his record company and the fans some sort of disco-influenced, sophisticated, composed, you know, pop songs. And they're great, really great. And if you put this album on, you get through there, you go, well, this isn't like, you know, it's not out there like, you know, Sunup at Storm, whatever it's called. No, it's not like that. This is more like the first album. Now, what he's doing here, he's manipulating you. Then we get Fly Into This Night. Now, Fly Into This Night, again, is one of my favourite Gino tracks. It's so out there and funky and strange. The composition is so depth. The way the synthesizers work, it's absolutely incredible. You know I like all that Jeff Beck wired in Jan Hammer. This has got that too. Right, now you turn the album over. And we have a side-long. Yes, side-long. And the Gino fans go, not quite a side-long. No, yes, side-long. Bear with me. We get a side-long progressive rock masterpiece. Perhaps the greatest progressive long side-long masterpiece. Nah, it's not, because you've got Frank Zappa, haven't you? But one of the great side-long masterpieces to come out of America. But it's from Canada, really. So when you up again, you got Rush. You got Rush and Gino. So you got Rush 2112 and bloody Cygnus X1, Phantoms of Lamnius. You've got those three. But if you wanted to add one that I think's better than all of those, it's Gist of Gemini. With its epic war suite. Right? Which is like incredible. It's pure instrumental music for the first 10 minutes or so. It's all over the place. You know, great big... When Gino wants to be prog, you know, that sort of fanfare, here we are, you know, Gustav Hofmars, bringer of war, this is it, let's, you know, all that type of stuff, you know, that prog does so well, that we all love. Gino's the best at it. But you've also got these incredible funky grooves, you've got these incredible Latin grooves, synthesizer, it's incredible. And then it tells a story of a man going to war. Right, he goes to war and he fights and then he returns home and it centres around the track that's right in the middle, which is called The Carnal Question. Now, the reason I looked inside is I hope to have the lyrics and I was going to do a lyrical analysis. Right, this song is one of the most bizarre songs in the history of popular music. Gino Vannelli no less, is singing a song about, and it's imaginary because this could actually possibly happen in real life, but he's imagined he's gone off to war. He's returned home to his wife, loved one, partner, whatever you want to call her. But he is now, because of the injury sustained in battle, unable to perform the carnal duties that you expect from any husband. What would happen if that was the case? It asks that imaginary question. Right? So, you may think it's ridiculous for Rush to write an epic about some bloke finding a guitar in a cave in the future, you know, or flying a spaceship into the centre of a black hole and then coming out and being able to balance, you know, the sort of platonic ideals of Dionysus and Apollo, you know. I mean, you thought that was over the top, but I bet you didn't know that there was a bloody a prog rock epic about by impotence created by war. I mean, what's happened to the fella? You know, has he had his todger shut off? I mean, look at Gino. I mean, look at him. I've shown you the photograph, but look at him. I mean, surely if you're shooting at Gino, right, you're not going to hit his todger because the obvious target is his hair. Can you imagine him running across the battlefield with that? I mean, it's the wind itself would drag him back, you know, so you'd be able to single him out. Then you got that great big black glob. You're going to be shooting at that. No one's going to be trying to, you know, aim at his todger from a distance. However big it is, and I'm sure it's very big. You know, I think it goes without saying it's very big. So, absolutely bizarre. But musically, it's a bloody incredible piece of music. Incredible musicianship, incredible drums, very complex. It's one of my favourites. Sidelong prog epics. It doesn't quite feel upside two. We do have Summers of My Life, but I have to be honest, it all flows so well together. There's like this huge build up to a climax, which is To the War Reflection. It's an incredible prog climax. A lot of prog bands aren't able to do that. They're not able to do 20 minutes of music and then land you at the end feeling, oh yeah, I've been somewhere. And then this little ballad comes out, and it's so right musically that I always thought it was wonderful. This is a very strange video. It contains comedy. I can extract comedy from Gino very easily. I did a video on music videos once, and it was a comedy video, and I just put up one of Gino's videos, and him there in the white suit with the great hairy chest do this strange dance where he's like choreographing all the sort of prog complexity that's going on in the background. I find incredibly funny, and whilst he's doing this, women are literally throwing themselves at him. You know, they're trying to crawl across the floor just to get a touch of his toe, and that's the last thing you want to be touching on Gino, as we'll find out in a bit. Right, the album that follows up Gist of Gemini is The Pauper and the Prince. Now, I don't own that album, but what's incredible is it takes the idea of Gist and Gemini even further. A bunch of sort of Gino pop songs, very complex, beautiful harmonies. It's all there on side one. But when you go into side two, they have the British Royal Philharmonic Orchestra playing like basically a symphony of Gino's compositions, instrumental. It's a proper piece of classical music. Now, come on, who? Neil Young, bloody Lou Reed, all these people you champion, all these ones you think are bloody great, and you're laughing up your sleeve at Gino and horrified that he did a Mama Coco. We're all horrified by that. But can you believe that this bloke can get a pen out, get some manuscript, and write a bloody symphony for an orchestra? And he does on here, and it's incredible. Now, of course, these lads are pushing it. This is why I'm covering these early albums. They're pushing it, aren't they? And the record company turns around, I think it's sort of 77, after Prince and the Pauper, not Prince of the Pauper, what's it called? No, I said Prince of the Pauper, I can't remember what it's called. Did I say the right name before? It's like Pauper in, I've forgotten it, I've forgotten the title, oh bloody hell. Keep going, Andy, keep going. Right, so, record company come along and they say, your sales are dropping, we're not paying you to get a bloody orchestra in, write a symphony. Nobody wants that. What they want is something for the ladies. They want you up front, chest out, you know, white trousers so you can see everything that's contained within. We need to wind the ladies up and impress all the musicians of the world. That's what I expect from you, Gino. So wind it in and give us some hit records. Joe and Gino must have gone home and gone, oh, what are we going to do? I don't know. We're going to have to come up with something commercial. What are we going to do? I don't know. Then the news comes in. Old Carlos Santana, he's been listed to these albums, especially Storm at Sunup, right? And he's been impressed by Graham Lear. And he grabs Graham Lear, and Graham Lear becomes the drummer in Santana. Now, Santana had Mike Shreve in the early days, hadn't he? You know, Santana had. And then he left, and they got in and Duga in, but he was like doing a session job. And they're faffing around without a drummer. Then Graham Lear comes in. Now, come on, let's be honest, drummers. Anybody who knows the live stroke studio album Moonflower know that the reason why it's absolutely mind-blowing is because it has this drummer on there, doesn't it, Graham Lear, and he's ridiculous on that album. He stays with Santana for a while. When Santana plays Live Aid, I believe Graham Lear's on the bill there. And then he goes on to play with something like REO Speedwagon, which seems like a waste for me. He's done all sorts of things since. But there's a period of time when Graham Lear is one of the great drummers of all time. No one mentions it, but he is. It's these albums and Moonflower. It's incredible drumming. He goes. He's off with Santana now. So they decide to reconvene the band. He pulls in, of course, his brother Joe Vannelli, and we get Mark Craney on drums. Now, Mark Craney is another drummer, for me, one of the greatest drummers that's ever lived. The proggers might know him from his time with Jethro Tull, but he really is one of the greatest drummers that's ever lived. And he is at his sublime greatest on the album they produced next, which is this behemoth, which sold millions and millions of copies, Brother to Brother. But we've also got on here the great Carlos Rios on guitar, one of the great fusion guitarists of all time. We've got Leon Gar on synthesizer and electric bass. And on a couple of tracks, we have the virtuoso Jimmy Haslip on electric bass. We also get, as guests, Ernie Watts on saxophone, Manello Badrina on percussion, although here they call him Manuel Badrina, like Manuel, like Fawlty Towers, Manuel. God, I can't believe that. The great British jazz musician that seemed to do everything with everybody, Victor Feldman on vibes. And then a whole great big roster of backing vocals, which are based the Waters family. We've got Stephanie Spreel and then Julia Tillman, and then the Waters, Maxine Willard, and we've also got Ross Vannelli. Right, beautiful cover. Gino on the beach. I'm never quite sure what he's sat on here. It looks like they've gone and got a couple of tyres and fashioned a little chair for him by dropping a stone inside the tyres. Now, God knows who's done that, because that stone will be quite weighty. So who's been able to pick that up and force that just so Gino can get something to sit on, you know? Well, I've always wondered that. Brother to Brother. Now, of course, his brother is Joe Vannelli, which is older to him. But on this, the brother is in the background, right? Here he is. Look at the little brother there. So he's played the part. This is very much in the sort of Houses of the Holy cover, isn't it? Sort of. You got that going on. But what I've always found quite disturbing about this album is his foot. Now, you're probably going to say he's just got a bit of sand on his foot. No, that doesn't just look like sand. That's a cloven hoof. Right? That's what I'm saying. All those ladies reaching for his toes on stage, do they really know what they're trying to reach for? That strange, appendage. It's got a gatefold. There he is, wandering down the beach. And there's an example of how, if you were shooting at him, look at the hair there. The hair's incredible. Absolutely incredible. There he is walking down the beach there. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant. I love this cover. Right? Brilliant album. Now, what's Brother to Brother like? It's drawn in. It's more poppy. It's more commercial. It sold millions of records. He had hit records off this. He ends up as a stadium artist. This is what made Gino what he is. This is the album. It's the full works. The band has sort of gone up a gear. Graham Lear is incredible, but Mark Craney is as incredible as Graham Lear. The reason I wanted to do this video, because me as a drummer, Gino was a drummer's group or artist. They're essential if you're a drummer. When people go on about Steely Dan, and they go on about Asia, and they go on about Steve Gadd on there, and I love it all, right? It's really incredible, the solo and the complexity, right? But for me, my Asia is not Asia. Mine is Brother to Brother. Now, Brother to Brother is a 10-minute song that does everything that Gino does. It really does. And it's mind-blowing. with all this prog and jazz rock fusion complexity, and this is the thing about Gino, no one has probably ever married progressive rock and fusion in quite the same way that enables these two styles to not fight each other, not like do a bit of prog and then have a bunch of soloing. It's all part of the orchestration. That's what it is. Because they're songwriters and great songwriters, they're able to utilize the soloing as part of the story of the song. And this is a celebration of brothers, and it takes brothers in the widest sense. And it's almost like you feel that the Vannelli brothers want to show off their band. They want to go, look, these are our musical brothers. Mark Craney throws in some there's like some drum breaks in here, and he takes a drum solo. It's in the middle of a song. You don't notice it. You don't go, well, that's quite good. We got a drum solo in it. This is some of the greatest drumming ever recorded. This really is something else. Brother to Brother is the essential track. If you're into prog or you're into jazz rock fusion, it's essential. And every time I listen to it, I've been listening to it for years, but my opinion on it changed when I had an unruly class once when I was teaching. And in the classroom, I got my stage, I got a big PA in there, and it was linked to the internet. And the kids are playing me up and being a bit cheeky, thinking they're something special, as, kids do. All musicians. And I got a little bit annoyed. So as the punishment, I decided to pummel them at high volume with Brother to Brother, the whole 10 minutes. So I made them sit down and I put it on. And the musicians in the room, the young musicians in the room, were quite literally astonished at what they were hearing. And when we switched it off, they were asking, how was it possible for a band to do something like that? And the question they were asking was, without computers, without being able to go and fix everything and multi-track everything and layer it in, how the hell do you pull that off? Because this album was most likely recorded all at the same time, like albums were. And the interplay suggests that. And they found that this is astonishing because the orchestration is so dense. It's an incredible tune. It really is. Now, this video has been a roller coaster through Gino's career, and I've only got through to 1980, and he's carried on since then. The rest of this album is absolutely fantastic. Incredible production. Appaloosa, really funky, real. It's just a great album. At certain points, you could describe it as middle of the road. At certain points, Gino Vannelli is like, he is close to Barry Manilow. If you got Robert Plant, but made him Italian, and then put a big gob of Barry Manilow in there, a big gob of Steely Dan in there, and a big gob of Yes in there, and then teamed him up with the greatest drummers in the world, I think that's what you'd have with Gino Vannelli. Right, this album safeguarded his career. He went back into the studio in the early 80s and made the follow-up to this, which is called Nightwalker, and he got one of the greats in, Vinnie Colaiuta, to play on that. Back in the early days when we were like fans of Vinnie and nobody really knew who he was, you had the Zappa albums, and then he'd come out and he'd play with Tom Scott, Joni Mitchell, and Gino, and there wasn't that much around to appreciate of him. The Gino Vannelli album Nightwalker is very produced, and I think although the music's very beautiful and it's got a lot of the qualities of this album, you start to see the perfectionism of modern production techniques coming in, and everything sounds a little bit stifled. I've read interviews with Vinnie Colaiuta where he's mentioned that he said a lot of tape was rolled when they made that album. He then went on to do a couple of sort of acoustic folk albums, moved away from the sort of prog fusion mix. He has worked in sort of almost like Italian opera, middle of the road, wine bar stuff. He's done the whole remit. His bands are always very fiery. There's always more going on live. There's some incredible video recently of him doing Brother to Brother, and it is just as fiery and over the top. Last night, I was watching him, a video of him in the club. He was doing Brother to Brother. They'd reduced it down to sort of bossa nova Latin thing, but still with all the arrangement there. And he was singing absolutely beautifully. This is a force of nature. Gino Vannelli, this is the man. So I hope you appreciated that. It's a long time coming, wasn't it, Gino fans? Long time coming. You probably was sitting there and goes, does Andy know who Gino is? Does he like him or does he not like him? I mean, what does he think of him? I love him. I love him. And other YouTubers love him too. And I think he needs to have a reassessment. We need to realise that this is one of the great musical greats. This is equal to Stevie Wonder, I believe, in terms of pop, jazz rock fusion, proggy crossover. And that's a video that's coming up for me. I'm going to be looking at those albums. I'm going to be looking at all the Stevie Wonder albums, but I really want to go through that period where he moves up to Secret Life for Plants, which again is a prog album, but it occupies sort of the same territory as this. Anyway, that's done. If you like this, stick a like on. If you want to see some more, subscribe. If you want to become a patron, you can become a free member. The link is down below. If you want to become a member here, the link is down below. I am looking this year at some point in reducing my video content. There will be more members content and less content coming up front. I'm doing too much and you're not watching it. There's too much. It's not your fault, it's my fault. But I'm producing too many videos and I'm going to pull back and try and do, more hard-hitting videos, which by hard-hitting, I mean the ones that the viewers like, which won't be a video like this. This has been funny, entertaining, I hope. It's, for those of you who don't know Gino, has been a sort of guide through his early career, and you might want to go explore it. If you are a Gino fan, hopefully it's been fun going through these albums, but this won't get the views. Oh, that's a shame. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.